And welcome back to Amtgard 201. My name is Coltrane Lionheart. I'm from the Kingdom of the Rising Winds, the Duchy of Madoc's Keep. And today we're going to be talking about the Backline. This is going to be the final part of our Fighting Line series. So, let's get into it. So, the Backline of combat, which is one of the most important lines of combat, especially when it comes to larger battle games. And we're going to kind of talk about the different roles that can be played in the backline. So, I kind of break it down to about 5 different roles that can be played at the backline. And we're kind of going to go down the list and talk about the pros and cons of each role and what you can do in these roles. And kind of like I was talking about in earlier videos, it's not necessarily about the class that you play, but the mentality that you bring to each of these roles. And we're going to kind of go over that a little bit. So, first thing we're going to go over is enchantments and why it's so important at the backline. So, enchantments. Before we really get deep into the enchantments, let's talk about what a part of the thing I was talking about in a previous video, which we're going to have a link below, about the midline and wasting time. So, the backline is one of the most important lines because you have the most amount of time. What I mean by that is that, of course, the front line has a whole lot going on, right? They have the least amount of time to react to situations. So, of course, situations of swords coming at you, arrows, all kinds of stuff like that, magic. You have the least amount of time. Midline gets a little more time, so they can do a little bit longer enchantments. But the back line is where those longer enchantments really get to flourish. So, for example, we're talking about transitioning your roles at the front line. Talking about that before, and this is where the back line is where that transition can really happen a lot for a lot of people. So, say for example, we have a fighter at the front line, has a lot of armor, and he loses all of his armor, loses all of his enchantments, everything. This is where that transition kind of comes into play. He's going to move back, another person that was in the back line is going to come up and take his place, and then he's going to get to enjoy that downtime, or that longer time, where other people can put on more enchantments. So, the back line is more about time management. So, because the back line gets so much more time, they get so much more time to strategize, replan what we need to do as a total group, and they have that time to recharge and stuff like that. So in each of these lines, a lot of people may have to transition to this back line because they may have to do stuff that takes a longer amount of time. Like I said, someone in the front line may have to transition to the back because they need new enchantments or something like that, or recharges that may take longer. Especially our midline, you'll see this a lot. A lot of players on our midline who are casters, this is when they have to step back to that back line, go through their recharges, go through their lists, or go through their enchantments, and then come back up to wherever their line is at. So, let's see here. That's the first part of enchantment, so it's more about the longer enchantments. Let's go into the second part of enchantments, the fixed enchantments. So, fixed enchantments. So in V8, we have a few kind of really cool fixed enchantments. Fixed enchantments are enchantments that make you stuck in that one area. So things like Heart of the Swarm, which makes you a respawn location essentially, but you're stuck in that one location. Or something more like Circle Protection, where I am more or less stuck at that location and I can extend that Circle Protection to people. So it's more about the fixed enchantments, because of course you can't really have a fixed enchantment at the front line. You can't have it at the back line. At the mid line. It's more or less set for that back line. And this is some of the most important things about the back line, is that instead of us, say, dying and have to walk all the way back or re-outer res and stuff like that, we can go to that back line, and then, like I was talking about earlier about the longer enchantments, use that time back there to get ourselves re-enchanted, reset up, and then go back up to our roles that we wanted in the first place. So fixed enchantments are super important, especially for these longer battles, especially for these bigger battles like a Keep on a Borderlands, or there's 50 on 50, that kind of stuff like that. So let's go ahead and head on to our next subject about death management. So what is death management, and what do I mean by that? It is, like Heart of the Swarm, stuff like that, that's a part of death management. It is managing how many people die, how we actually get people up, how do we sustain this fight. So the thing about large battle games is there's going to be a lot of people dying, especially in the first 5-10 minutes of that fight. There's going to be a lot of people dying, and eventually our frontline support, our midline support, are going to run out of their faster reses, or resurrection type of things that we can do, right? So that's why we have our backline that's going to do our longer resurrection stuff. So, of course, the res takes a long time to do, Summon Dead takes a long time to do, but that is the whole point of death management here. We're going to have, I'm sure you've seen it, especially in larger battle games, where we have 5, 6, 7, 10 people back there who are just constantly standing there, summoning dead, res, summon dead, res, summon dead, res. Their whole job back there may not even keep a weapon other than a dagger on them. It is just summon dead, res, constantly going. That is death management. It's a super important part of it because, like I said, ultimately, we're going to start running out of things at the front. We're going to start running out of things at the mid. We need a loop of people that keep coming into the fight. They keep up our reinforcements. That's the word I'm looking for. Okay, so the last thing I'm looking at. Oh no, not the last thing. Next thing we're looking at is flanking and anti-flanking. So because our backline has so many important roles to sustain our whole fight, of course, that is where we have people who want to flank. Flanking is going around our traditional lines that we have set up to try to attack other parts of our group. So, of course, that leaves them very vulnerable to people who are flanking. So we need people who will stop that type of flanking. So as I said before, because we have a lot of people that's in the back line, they have this much time, they have these important enchantments and spells. A lot of those, because of a lot of those enchantments and stuff, take up so much magic points and resources here. Those people don't have a lot of equipment. So if you think about, like, say, a healer, if I want to take the max amount of reses and heals and summon dead and stuff like that, I'm not really going to have that many weapons on me because it costs so many points for me to have a sword and a shield, right? So a lot of people who are back there are going to be very vulnerable to being flanked. So we need people, sometimes, depending on the group that you have, sometimes it's one person with a lot of armor, sometimes it is a lot of people who are sort of in your midline, or people who are coming back from, like I said about transitioning. Sometimes the back line is protected by people who are constantly transitioning from their different lines to come back to get fully healed up and rezzed and enchanted. So sometimes leave it up to that role, but it is important to always have anti-flankers back there. We never want to leave these vulnerable people who are doing some of the most important jobs of our whole group just out there to the wind. I have been at events where they have seen that our front line and our midline is just rock solid. Nothing they can do about it. So they take their whole midline, they have them go circle all the way out, 5 minutes all the way around to go take our back line, and we didn't have the correct amount of flankers, anti-flankers for that situation, and they rush all the way up and take us all that way. It's super important for us to think about these roles and how we have to transition these roles, because especially when it comes to backline, because of the equipment that they have to take for that role, they're not that much transitioning for them. So say we go to the example of I am a druid and my main goal is constantly pumping out enchantments for people, constantly pumping out armor for people. Because I don't have polearm, sword, whatever kind of going on here, I can't really transition to a frontline fighter. I can't really transition to a midline fighter because maybe I didn't take CCs because I had so much armor and other things to give out. At best, I might be able to transition to midline and provide that kind of support for like mids and armor and stuff like that. Midline, but may not be the best because I probably didn't take stuff that would make it faster or that kind of stuff like that, kind of keeping that in mind. So the point is the backline can't really transition to these other roles. So we really rely on that front line and midline to protect them, especially from flankers. So I think that's everything I have for today about the backline. So if you have any comments, concerns, anything you'd like to add about this video today, go ahead and put that in the comments below. You need to get in contact with me. That'll be in the bio below also. And so we're going to try to produce more of these videos, try to put them out either weekly or bi-weekly. And if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button, and hopefully we'll keep doing these. And I think that's everything for today. So as always, swords up, lay on.